Welcome to DePIN Deployer, bringing you the latest DePIN news and founder interviews. I'm Leo from Future Networks, a mass DePIN hardware deployer. We've got one of the largest DePIN hardware portfolios globally, and we're here to share our insights with you and help you decide which projects to get behind. Consider subscribing if you want updates on new projects, market trends, and founder interviews. We hope you enjoy. Can you believe it, Maija? After all this time, we're back on a podcast together.
Yeah, excellent, Leo. Thanks for inviting me again. It's been a while, but good to be back. We have some great things to discuss for sure.
100%, and thanks for joining. I guess maybe listeners do or don't know, we used to do a podcast called State of the Hive, which was all about HiveMapper with the infamous Mladen. So we were all very early HiveMapper contributors, and it basically was a podcast every week, every other week. We weren't very organized with it, but it was following the progress of HiveMapper, and it was a lot of fun doing it. And they've obviously matured into a much more mature project now. It was like 3-4 years ago that we actually started getting involved with them. And there's a ton of really cool other DePIN projects that have emerged since then. And obviously as DePIN mass deployers, which is what both of us do, we're always on the hunt and the lookout for new projects. And one has really caught our eye recently, which is ROVR. And so we wanted to come together and talk about ROVR. So that's what we are here to do. But yeah, Maija, maybe starting off with, We'll get in a minute. We'll get on to what ROVR is. I'm sure if someone clicked on this video, they probably have an idea already. So maybe start off by saying a couple of words about you and what you do, and also what caught your attention from ROVR.
Sure. So my name is Maija. So I've been in the DePIN space actually since kind of before DePIN was a thing. So in my opinion, DePIN started with the kind of decentralized storage space. So with storage and Cyan, etc. So it's been quite a journey over the last few years. Well, in terms of ROVR, I think what caught my eye is kind of the speed at which they kind of emerged practically from nothing, and then actually we were able to kind of put out a product within like a few months. They had the kind of the first TX machine available. And that was quite surprising because hardware is normally very difficult for most projects. I mean, most projects actually struggle the most with hardware because of supply chains and actually most countries don't have the expertise to actually build proper hardware. So when they kind of came along that fast, I was kind of positively surprised about them being that fast.
Yeah, 100%. I think speed of execution for me has definitely been a really impressive thing with ROVR. I don't remember when they first came on my radar, but I met them in Singapore at Breakpoint last year as the project was emerging. And then it's like maybe a month later, check back in, and they'd already done so much in that time. They're a Chinese team based now in the US, but Guang, the CEO, he was the guy behind the Pisces helium miners. So he already had quite a lot of manufacturing experience, which I guess might explain why they're so good at the hardware side of things. And then also for me, it's a super interesting project, not only because of the teams, like their ability to execute, but it's also the intersect of two really, really interesting industries. So you've got autonomous vehicles on one side, which everybody's talking about, Elon and his robo-taxis with Tesla. You've got Waymo in the US, and it's a really fast evolving space. And then you also have AI, and specifically with ROVR, you've got the spatial AI side of things. So yeah, really cool project, really cool industry, and really fast moving. So yeah. Cool project.
Yeah. So I mean, that's another kind of quality from ROVR as well, is that they actually capture a wealth of sensor data, right? So if you kind of remember from the HiveMapper days, we started with the normal dash cam, and then with the HDC, and now kind of the B has some more tech in there with some sensor fusion and things like that. But kind of ROVR went straight into, okay, we kind of want to build this HD map. So okay, we'll use a phone, and then we'll swap a kind of high grade IMU and RTK antenna and use Geodnet on top of it, which actually that kind of interlocking of different DePIN projects is actually one of the first time I've seen that in that way that you can, oh, these guys kind of offer a good RTK service, Geodnet. Well, let's use that. And then now with the LC, right? Because they have two different types of hardwares. They have a kind of automotive grade camera, a automotive grade LiDAR sensor, and IMU, and they have a small AI computer on the machine itself. So they kind of capture a wealth of different data sets and they managed to build all of that within a year.
Yeah. It's
and that's not normal for this space.
Yeah, and I think so. So I actually view them as well as two quite distinct projects, ROVR and HiveMapper. I think they do different things for different markets. ROVR is obviously, I mean, they're producing a really, really high definition 3D map. So to go into a bit more of what ROVR is, as you quite rightly said, there's two devices. One which just uses your phone, so very low barrier to entry, very cheap, like maybe $199. And then you have the LC or the light cone, which is a beast of a device with LiDAR inside, with cameras that goes on the top of your car and costs like $2,500. So very much more cost prohibitive, but it does incredible things. The data that captures is super, super high definition, high precision from the RTK, as you said. And so I guess to say what they're doing is they're building that foundational 3D map for stuff like autonomous cars. And stuff like, if you imagine drones, robots operating in the real world, they need to know and be able to interact with their environment around them. And so they need a very, very high quality 3D map to know how to interact with everything around them. And that's what ROVR is doing. So sorry, Maija, I interrupted you before saying
No,
that.
no. I mean, it's quite complex what they are doing. So from my point of view, not everyone might agree with this, but from my point of view, they intersect in some areas, but they have a little bit of a different ethos in terms of how they see the future, to kind of some degree, because HiveMapper really sees, okay, the future is going to be with normal optics, like normal cameras that are actually, so we are going to get real world data from these cameras to kind of make decisions using AI and different types of tools. And ROVR says, okay, but on the other end, LiDAR, right, which is light detection and ranging. So ROVR says, okay, but 3D data is still very important because there are still robotaxis, for example, use a lot of LiDAR. Other types of robotics use a lot of LiDAR. So we still want to use LiDAR for kind of the ground truth, while HiveMapper says, okay, but we are going to get the ground truth by other means of kind of calibration. So it's kind of two main vectors of different kind of fundamental idea of what the future looks like. Now, who is certain is still kind of the question, but I think ROVR is quite smart in that sense, because on that LC, so on that kind of bigger light car, maybe you can show a picture later, they have not only the LiDAR sensor, but also a 4K automotive grade RGB sensor, which can also capture, normal road imagery. So, and with the TX, right, with the GNSS antenna that you put on top of your car, and you kind of plug it into your phone. That is similar actually to what HiveMapper is doing as well. So I think ROVR is kind of exactly that thing. Yeah.
This is the LC that goes on the roof of the car. If you're using the one with your phone, this is just a little puck that goes on the roof. But yeah, this is what the big LC looks like.
Yeah. So at the top you have the camera, and then at the bottom you have the LiDAR sensor, and so I think they are kind of looking at as well to see, okay, what is my product market fit? So where can I, where is it easier for us to get customers?
On that note, where do you think the main customers and the main kind of target market is for the ROVR data?
Mainly probably OEMs and kind of companies associated with the driverless vehicles and other suppliers for those OEMs and car manufacturers. But there are a lot of them. So LiDAR is mainly used right now, including for Tesla, for kind of pre-maps. So you don't put those LiDAR maps on those cars. You actually use them to train your AI model to kind of determine the ground truth and to improve those models. So a lot of companies really need that data, for now at least.
And that's for trained AI models, right? So typically right now, if you go onto, obviously we're all using ChatGPT, Grok 4, whatever it is. These LLMs, they're trained mainly on language data. So just from the internet, basically. And then also if there's any imagery there, it will be 2D pictures, whereas Rover is providing the 3D high definition data.
Yeah. So I mean, for a very simple explanation, you kind of want to know, or you want to translate what you see with your eyes into a digital format, right? So if you're using cameras, okay, you can build kind of a map with these kind of attributes. Okay, here you have a line, here you have a stop sign, etc. And that's actually what HiveMapper is doing the most. And they kind of capture that, which is light, because they don't actually send a picture of the stop sign. They just say, hey, there is a stop sign here, etc. But what Rover does is they also capture that data as well, but they also have kind of that depth data, so that you can actually see, okay, what is the distance to this specific unit. And with LiDAR, that's very accurate. But you don't put LiDAR maps on cars, so you actually train AI models with those maps. Then you get kind of a result from that, and that you send to a car, including files with, okay, where is the stop sign, because you still need that type of information. So in that sense, Rover and kind of HiveMapper have kind of a little bit of a different focus, but Rover can do what HiveMapper does as well, but they don't have the scale. And I think it's not as easy, because if you have a dash cam, a dash cam works also as a dash cam, ideally, right? So you can actually scale further than just having someone that has a phone in the windshield to kind of capture that data. It's not as practical, in my opinion. But they don't have that 3D data, which Rover has. But you need to buy a $2,500 piece of equipment, which is expensive, so you probably will not scale as fast. So it's a number of trade-offs and a number of advantages. So kind of they do compete, but I think for the short medium term, they will focus on different parts. So Rover will really focus on, hey, we have this kind of very expensive data, because LiDAR is usually very expensive. We can offer to you for a much cheaper price. And HiveMapper says we have all of these attributes, all of this street data, which you can just plug into your car. So we've seen a number of kind of announcements kind of around this, where you can just plug it into where those companies use it, also for training, but also directly on the vehicles as well. So, but it's a very, very interesting time for these kind of digital mapping DePINs.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you touched on an important point there, right? Because obviously, if all of the most valuable data is coming from the LCs and they are $2,500, is that cost kind of prohibitiveness going to impair their growth? I mean, that kind of segues nicely into the next section, which is all about traction so far. And for people to kind of get a grasp of it, there's about 50 light cones live in the world right now. I think between us, Maija, we probably own 5 or 10% of them. So there's like pretty much very, very limited coverage. I guess it's just kind of the test phase right now. And then there's about 500 on order, which will come online at some point around September, October. So we're still numbers. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Leo. But the Guang said, I think in the podcast yesterday, that's going to be end of August. So there are still light cones available to order, but they will start shipping them end of August. And so far, they haven't missed. We cannot really say the same for HiveMapper, but they haven't missed. They haven't missed their kind of shipping estimate. So end of August is
They have
probably
done significantly less hardware, but yeah, track record's super good right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, if you do have a spare $2,500 and you fancy it, you can go and order one and participate. But yeah, let's talk about some traction so far. So they're about the kind of numbers we're putting out. Do you know how many of the smaller TX devices they have out?
About 2,000 of them,
So pretty
of the
good.
small TX, yeah, and 50 light cones.
And it's coming up to probably, what is it, like 10 months since they released the TX, something like that?
Exactly, yeah.
So
So
2000 and
they
about 10 months. It's good.
they actually wanted to reach to 5,000, but I don't think they're going to make that, honestly, because if you look at the growth of the number of devices, they are right now they are adding about three to five devices per day.
Yeah.
So that's about 150 per month. So that's not going to be enough to reach 5,000. But those light cones, the last thing I heard is that there were not that many in stock. I'm not sure how many, but I think if they're able to close that 500 mark LC round, I think that's a very good sign, because that is actually, if they ship those 500 units and those 500 units do start mapping properly, there is no other company in the world that has 500 of those LiDAR mapping devices going daily. So
yeah, and that's super significant, because obviously one of the problems of this industry, if you want that high quality LiDAR mapping, typically it's very, very expensive, and you have to pay someone to go in the car and do the mapping for you. It takes a ton of calibration, so it's very cost prohibitive. The DePIN model really works here,
and it's hundreds of dollars per kilometer, and those setups costs also, I mean, those vehicles also cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So so I think for the future, in terms of the LC, should be more of a focus for kind of people observing for, okay, what is the actual potential of this project versus the TX device. The TX device is important as well, but it's really the LC that's going to determine how successful they will be. But they're doing pilots right now, from what I understand, with a number of, they don't have any revenue yet, but I think it makes sense, right? Because they HiveMapper really started in, what was this, 2022?
4 years ago. So I think longer than that, wasn't it? Like when we got the first devices, wasn't it? Yeah, I guess maybe the start of 22.
Yeah. So they have about a 3-year kind of head start in terms of development. So I think it's a bit too early to say, okay, how much tokens are you burning? Although in terms of the tokenomics, I do want to say that I find the tokenomics quite good of ROVR. So actually, I actually written that down before we had the chat. So they both have 10 billion total supply. HiveMapper attributes 40% of the total tokens to its community for mapping, but ROVR is at 51%. And that 11% might sound small, but for 10 billion tokens, that's a lot of tokens extra for the community. So in terms of revenue, right, HiveMapper, from what we know, has about 300,000 of revenue, at least from what we can see in terms of tokens burned, right? Because in the end of the day, for us DePIN people, it's important that they do well. But if they don't burn tokens, it doesn't have a big impact on us or it doesn't have a positive impact on us unless they burn those tokens. So and then also ROVR burns about 80% of their or 80% of the revenue goes to burning tokens. Of that, 60% is for actually burning ROVR, and 20% is for burning Geodnet tokens, because that's the RTK, which is also very interesting, right? We haven't seen this before, a project burning someone else's tokens. But I find it fascinating and kind of great, a great thing for DePIN. For HiveMapper,
I was going to say, it's super novel, that approach of your revenue burning geo tokens. And I guess that comes down to the very, very tight partnership which they have formed. So in fact, the ROVR team is sitting in the office of Geodnet. They're going to be benefiting from all the Geodnet tailwinds. They have a lot of kind of overlap when it comes to target customers. So they'll both benefit each other from business development. And obviously, going back to how other companies do this, it's very expensive, not only because of all the hardware, but they need to have a good, reliable RTK service, which is very expensive usually as well. Rover's getting this for free from Geodnet, which puts them at a very significant cost advantage over the rest of their competition, which is why, to your point, no one else is going to have the data set that these guys have at such scale. It's really quite an incredible asset.
Quality, right? It's scale and quality. So the kind of real question is, we are kind of in a bear market right now. The kind of real question is, will they be able to reach that scale before they go bankrupt?
You see a bear market. Bitcoin's at pretty much all-time high. I guess
sure.
Tokens, they're not doing as well right now. In general, exactly. I get your point. I know what you're saying.
So for kind of DePIN, it's kind of a bear market, which if you look at it, right, these things pop up like meme coins. They get kind of a lot of hype, and then the hype is over, and then people move on to something else. Well, DePIN is still here, but people kind of don't give it that much attention. And it's kind of the DePIN's community's responsibility to actually build these viable businesses to show everyone, look, you can move to meme coins again, or kind of whatever type of other thing you have out there, but we have a sustainable business model and driving real revenue. And so these businesses are going to be around in the next 5, 10, 20 years. And so it's tough right now in DePIN, also for selling hardware, right? Because hardware, I mean, even for HiveMapper, you pay over $500 for a dash cam. For ROVR, for the TX, not too much, it's $199. But for the LC, it's $2,500, right? So that's serious money for a lot of people. And so and for scalability, that's still a big question, if they're able to actually properly scale.
On the note of data quality, though, they have done a few pilots. So I encourage people to go and have a look at them. We won't speak them all, but they also have some client letters basically saying, we've been using the Rover data preliminarily to kind of train whatever model we're doing, and for such and such purposes. There's one from Baidu Maps. There's one from Apollo Go. They've got some serious names. I guess a lot of these are big Chinese companies, which makes sense considering where they're from. But early traction on that side is looking really good.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I actually don't think mapping with Rover in China is permitted. I'm not sure. I mean, because I haven't seen any. I don't think it is, because even RTK networks are not allowed in Brazil. I mean, you don't have any Geodnet. In China, you don't have any.
For your
exactly. Yeah, I mean,
they'd be using the data though, right? If they have AI models that they want to train, even if you can't map, you can still use the data. And I think that's what they've alluded to in those letters, that they're happy with the quality.
Yeah, I mean, letters of intent are great, but it's kind of it's not a guarantee, right? It's most of these companies don't. A letter of intent is a good way to minimize risk for them. And if something doesn't really feel right, they just show you the door. But we really need to wait until they have some concrete customers. And I think if they ship those 500, and we'll wait 3-6 months, let's say 6 months, so that's August, let's say beginning of 2026. I think that's a good benchmark point to see, okay, we have all of these devices mapping. What can you do in terms of customers?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, there's a million things we could speak about, but I think we should try and keep these episodes relatively short so they're digestible. So let's probably cut it there. I think for future episodes, what we can do is we can talk about what the mapping experience is, both for the TX and LC. We can talk more about the tokenomics, the Geodnet partnership, and the significance of that. We can talk about the DePIN market in general, when we might kind of start seeing that boom, and some other projects, but mainly focused on Rover. So if you guys want to stay up to date with the Rover, if you're still listening now, thank you and well done for getting through it. But yeah, if you want to stay up to date with the Rover ecosystem, tap on that notification button and you'll get notified when we bring out the next one. But yeah, lots to talk about. Really excited to see how Rover evolve, and we'll be there documenting the journey.
Yeah, still a lot to talk about, but it's an interesting it's an interesting DePIN project, so check it out for those interested.
Cool, man. Thank you, Maija, for your time and for coming back on. And
Thank you as well, Leo. See you next time.
See you in a bit.